The alarm bells rang through Terra Defense Command at exactly 0347 hours. Commander Jake Morrison rushed from his quarters, still pulling on his uniform jacket as he made his way to the communications center. The night shift operators looked tense, their faces lit by the glow of multiple screens showing incoming data streams. "What do we have?" Jake asked as he approached the main console. Communications Officer Linda Ross turned to face him, her expression grim. "Sir, we're receiving an encrypted transmission from the Kepler 442 system. It's not good." Jake leaned over her shoulder to study the readout. The signal was weak, having traveled across nearly 30 light-years of space. The encryption was unlike anything in their databases, but their computers had managed to decode. "Portions of it! Play it!" Jake ordered. The speakers crackled to life, and a voice filled the room. It was clearly not human. The tone was higher, almost musical, but filled with desperation. "This is Elder Zara of the Zilani Council, broadcasting on all frequencies. Our world is under attack. The Vorthak Empire has invaded our system with overwhelming force. They have destroyed our orbital defenses and are bombarding our cities. We estimate 72 hours before complete planetary occupation." The voice paused, and when it continued, Jake could hear the pain in those alien words. "We are a peaceful people. We have no military to speak of. Our technologies are focused on healing and growth, not war. The Vorthak, they take prisoners for experiments. They enslave entire populations. We have heard the stories from other worlds that fell before us." Jake felt his stomach tighten. In the 3 years since humanity had developed faster than light travel, they had made contact with several alien species. Most were friendly, some were neutral, but they had all warned about the Vorthak Empire. The message continued. "We do not know who might receive this transmission. We broadcast it to all known star systems in the hope that someone, anyone, might have the power to help. We have women and children hiding in underground shelters. Our medical facilities are being targeted specifically. The Vorthak want our regenerative technology." There was another pause, longer this time. "We do not expect rescue. We know the distances are too great, and we know the Vorthak fleet is too powerful. But if there is any civilization listening who values life, who believes that peaceful people should not be enslaved, please remember us. Please remember that the Zilani tried to make the galaxy a better place." The transmission ended with coordinates and technical data about Vorthak ship movements. Jake stared at the console in silence. Linda and the other operators waited for his response. The Kepler 442 system was weeks away even at maximum warp speed. The Zilani would be dead or enslaved long before any help could arrive. "Get me Admiral Bennett," Jake said finally. "Priority 1. "Sir, it's nearly 4 in the morning," Linda pointed out. "I said priority 1. Within minutes, Admiral Lisa Bennett's face appeared on the main screen. Her gray hair was disheveled from sleep, but her eyes were sharp and alert. "This better be important, Morrison," she said. "Ma'am, we've received a distress call from the Zilani in the Kepler 442 system. They're under attack by the Vorthak Empire." Bennett's expression immediately became serious. "Show me everything." Jake transferred the data to her personal terminal. He watched as Bennett reviewed the transmission, the technical analysis, and the star charts showing the location of the Zilani homeworld. "How long to get there?" she asked. 3 weeks minimum, ma'am. Even pushing our engines beyond safe limits." Bennett was quiet for a long moment. Jake knew what she was thinking. The Zilani would be gone by then. The Vorthak would have what they came for and moved on to the next target. "Sir," Jake said carefully, The Zilani helped develop the medical technology that saved Captain Parker's life last year. Their research on cellular regeneration has applications for treating human diseases. I'm aware of their contributions, Commander. I'm also aware that sending our fleet into Vorthak space would be considered an act of war against an empire that controls over 200 star systems. Jake felt his heart sink. The Admiral was right, of course. Earth's fleet was powerful, but they were still new to galactic politics. Starting a war with the Vorthak Empire could doom humanity. However, Bennett continued, I'm also aware that the Zilani saved 17 human lives during the medical crisis on Europa Station. They shared their technology freely, asking for nothing in return. She was quiet again, studying something. Off-screen, call an emergency session of the Fleet Command Council. Every admiral, every senior captain. I want them here within 2 hours. Ma'am, should I begin preparing ship rosters for a rescue mission? Bennett looked directly at him through the screen. Commander, prepare rosters for every combat-ready vessel in the fleet. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. The transmission ended, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. He knew the numbers. Earth's united fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers, 48 destroyers, and various support vessels. Intelligence reports suggested the Vorthak had sent over 200 ships to the Zilani system. Sir? Linda spoke up. Are we really going to try to rescue them? Jake looked around the communications center. Every operator was watching him, waiting for an answer. These were good people dedicated to protecting Earth and its allies. They deserved honesty. I don't know, he said. But I know Admiral Bennett. If there's any way to save the Zilani, she'll find it. He turned back to the main console. Send a message to all Earth stations and colonies. Tell them we may have a fleet movement in the next few hours. Also, get me everything we have on Vorthak. Ship designs, weapons, and tactics. Sir, most of that information is classified at levels above our clearance. Then get me someone who has the clearance. We're going to need every advantage we can get. As the communications center burst into activity, Jake found himself thinking about the voice in the transmission. Elder Zara had sounded so much like a human in distress. Different species, different world, but the same fear for loved ones. The same hope that somewhere in the vast galaxy, someone cared enough to help. He looked at the star charts showing the location of Earth and the Zilani homeworld. The distance seemed impossible, but humans had always been good at doing impossible things. The next few hours would determine whether that tradition would continue among the stars. Luna Station buzzed with activity unlike anything seen since the Martian crisis 5 years earlier. Ships from across the solar system converged on humanity's largest military base, their crews working around the clock to prepare for what everyone knew would be the most dangerous mission in Earth's short spacefaring history. Admiral Lisa Bennett stood in the main briefing room, watching as her senior officers filed in. Captain Ryan Hayes of the USS Defiance looked tired but determined. Captain Ben Parker had just arrived from the Outer Rim Patrol, his uniform still bearing the dust of asteroid mining operations. Captain Nina Rodriguez brought her destroyer, Squadron from Mars orbit, their ships bristling with the latest weapon systems. Ladies and gentlemen, Bennett began as the room fell silent. 6 hours ago we received a distress call from the Zilani homeworld. They are under attack by the Vorthak Empire and have approximately 66 hours before complete occupation. She activated the holographic display, showing a three-dimensional map of local space. The Zilani system appeared as a small blue dot, surrounded by the vast red territory marked as Vorthak space. The distance to Kepler 442 is 29.7 light-years. At maximum warp, Our fastest ships can make the journey in 3 weeks. The Zilani will be gone by then. Captain Hayes raised his hand. Ma'am, are we looking at this as a rescue mission or a recovery operation? Neither, Bennett replied. We're looking at this as a liberation. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward. Admiral, with respect, intelligence reports suggest the Vorthak have sent over 200 ships to that system. We have 60 combat vessels total. Correct, which is why we're not going to fight them ship to ship. Bennett changed the display to show technical specifications of Vorthak vessels. Chief Engineer Matt Sullivan has been working with our weapons specialist for the past 4 hours. Matt, tell them what you found. Sullivan stood up, his usually calm demeanor replaced by barely contained excitement. The Vorthak rely heavily on energy shields and armor plating. Their ships are built like flying fortresses, tough, but not particularly fast or maneuverable. Our advantage lies in speed and tactical flexibility. He pulled up weapon schematics. We've modified our plasma torpedoes with variable frequency warheads. Instead of one big explosion, they'll cycle through different energy signatures to find weaknesses in Vorthak shielding. What about their fighters? Asked Captain Parker. That's where it gets interesting, Sullivan continued. Vorthak pilots are bred for aggression, not precision. They rely on overwhelming firepower rather than tactical thinking. Our fighter squadrons should be able to outmaneuver them. Colonel Amy Wright, commander of the fighter wings, nodded. My pilots have been studying Vorthak combat footage for the past 3 hours. Their formations are predictable, almost ritualistic. They seem to value honor over effectiveness. Bennett retook control of the briefing. Navigation Officer Kate Morgan has plotted our route. We'll be traveling through 3 separate Vorthak patrol zones. Each one presents an opportunity to test our theories about their combat effectiveness. Morgan stepped forward, activating a new display showing their planned route. The first patrol zone contains an estimated 12 to 15 ships. If our intelligence is correct, they'll be older vessels with less advanced shielding. We can use this as a proving ground for our new weapons. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Valdez cleared his throat. Admiral, what about ground operations? If we manage to reach the Zilani homeworld, we'll need to deal with Vorthak occupation forces. I was hoping you'd ask. Bennett smiled grimly. The Zilani sent detailed information about Vorthak biology in their distress call. Dr. Gary Nelson has been analyzing it. Dr. Nelson stood up, his medical training evident in his precise manner of speaking. Vorthak are larger and stronger than humans, with natural armor plating that can deflect small arms fire. However, they have 2 significant weaknesses. First, their joints are vulnerable to directed energy weapons. Second, they have poor peripheral vision due to their skull structure. Which means, Valdez prompted, which means your Marines can use hit-and-run tactics, staying mobile and targeting specific anatomical points. The Vorthak are used to enemies who try to match their strength. They won't expect humans to fight smart instead of hard. Captain Hayes stood up. Admiral, I have to ask the obvious question. Even if everything goes perfectly, even if we somehow defeat a force 3 times our size, what happens afterward? The Vorthak Empire isn't going to ignore the destruction of one of their fleets. Bennett was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of command. Captain, 3 years ago we were alone in the galaxy. Since then, we've made contact with 17 different species. 14 of them live in fear of the Vorthak Empire. They trade technology and resources to avoid being conquered. She gestured to the star map. The Zilani were the first species to offer us aid without asking for anything in return. They shared medical technology that has saved human lives. They welcomed our diplomats and our traders. When we needed friends in a hostile galaxy, they were there. So this is about repaying. A debt? Asked Captain Rodriguez. No, Bennett replied firmly. This is about deciding what kind of species we want to be. Do we want to be the ones who hide behind strong walls and hope the monsters don't notice us? Or do we want to be the ones who fight? Monsters? The room fell silent. Bennett could see her officers processing this, weighing the risks against their principles. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Nelson spoke up. Admiral, I've been in contact with the Zilani survivors via quantum relay. They're hiding in underground facilities, but they're still transmitting data about Vorthak ship movements and weaknesses. They know we can't reach them in time for a conventional rescue. What are they saying? Bennett asked. They're still helping us. Even facing extinction, they're sending everything they know about Vorthak technology. Shield frequencies, weapon specifications, tactical preferences. They want us to be prepared for future encounters. Colonel Wright shook her head in amazement. They're helping us get ready to fight the people who are killing them. Which brings me to the final point, Bennett said. This mission is voluntary. Every ship, every crew member, every Marine and pilot, they can choose whether to participate. We're not ordering anyone to follow us into what might be a suicide mission. Captain Hayes stood up immediately. The Defiance volunteers, Admiral. The Rodriguez Squadron volunteers, Captain Rodriguez added. One by one, every officer in the room volunteered their ships and crews. Bennett felt a surge of pride mixed with fear. These were good people, brave people. But bravery wouldn't stop Vorthak. Plasma cannons. Very well, she said. We launch in 18 hours. Use that time to brief your crews, load supplies, and make whatever preparations you think necessary. Chief Sullivan, I want those modified weapons installed on every ship. Already in progress. Ma'am, Colonel Valdez, prepare your Marines for extended combat operations. We don't know how long we'll be in that system. Understood, Admiral. As the officers filed out to prepare their ships, Bennett remained behind with the star charts. Luna Station continued its frantic activity outside the briefing room windows. She could see cargo shuttles moving between ships, loading supplies and weapons for the journey ahead. The odds were terrible. The distance was almost impossible. The enemy was stronger and more numerous. But the Zilani were still fighting, still hoping, still helping, even as their world burned around them. Admiral Bennett made a silent promise to the distant stars. Earth's fleet would answer their call, whatever the cost. The human fleet entered hyperspace as a single unit, 60 ships disappearing into the twisted realm between dimensions, where faster-than-light travel became possible. Admiral Bennett stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, watching the swirling colors outside the viewports that represented their journey through folded space. Engineering reports from all vessels, Admiral, Communications Officer Linda Ross announced. Chief Sullivan says the engine modifications are holding steady, but we're pushing beyond recommended limits. How long can we maintain this speed? Bennett asked. According to the computer models, about 15 days before we risk catastrophic engine failure, we'll reach Kepler 442 in 14 days, 6 hours. Bennett nodded grimly. The Zilani had perhaps 50 hours left when they departed Earth. By the time the human fleet arrived, the battle would have been over for almost 2 weeks. Ma'am, called Navigation Officer Kate Morgan from her station. We're receiving Vorthak. Communications traffic. They're not encrypted. Apparently, they don't expect anyone to be monitoring this far from their territory. Put it through the translators. The bridge speakers crackled as alien voices filled the air. The translation computers worked to convert the harsh Vorthak language into English, displaying the results on screen. Harvest operations proceeding on schedule, one voice reported. Medical facilities secured. Zalani specimens prepared for transport to research stations. Bennett felt her jaw clench. Specimens. They were talking about living beings as if they were laboratory materials. Another voice joined the transmission. Ground resistance eliminated in Sector 7. Remaining population concentrated in underground. Shelters. Engineering teams report successful extraction of regenerative technology databases. What about the orbital bombardment? A third voice asked. Completed 12 hours ago. Surface military installations destroyed. The planet is secure for full occupation. The transmission continued with status reports from different parts of the invasion fleet. Bennett listened as the Vorthak commanders discussed their victory, with cold efficiency. They had overwhelmed the Zalani in less than 2 days, just as predicted. Admiral, Dr. Gary Nelson's voice came over the intercom from the medical bay. I've been analyzing the biological data the Zalani transmitted before their communication systems went down. There's something you need to know. Go ahead, Doctor. The Zalani regenerative ability isn't just advanced medicine. It's something in their cellular structure that allows them to heal from almost any injury. The Vorthak aren't just conquering them. They're planning to use Zalani biology to create enhanced soldiers. Bennett absorbed this information. The implications were terrifying. If the Vorthak successfully integrated Zalani regenerative abilities into their own forces, they would become nearly unstoppable. How long would that process take? She asked. Based on the technical data, at least 6 months of research and experimentation. But, Admiral, the Vorthak are taking live Zalani for this purpose. The survivors aren't just prisoners. They're going to be test subjects. The bridge fell silent. Every officer understood what this meant. Even if they somehow reached the Zalani system and defeated the invasion fleet, there might be no one left to save. Captain Ryan Hayes's face appeared on the communication screen from the Defiance. Admiral, my intelligence officer has been monitoring those Vorthak transmissions. We're getting detailed fleet positions and movement patterns. Show me. The main display switched to a tactical overview of the Kepler 442 system. Red dots marked Vorthak ship positions, with larger symbols indicating capital ships and smaller ones showing fighters and support vessels. They have 237 ships in system, Hayes continued, but they're not in defensive positions. They're spread out in occupation formation, with most of their heavy ships in orbit around the Zalani homeworld. Bennett studied the display. The Vorthak fleet was arranged for control, not combat. They had clearly not expected any resistance. What about patrol patterns? That's the interesting part, Hayes replied. They're only running token patrols at the edge of the system. It looks like they consider the job finished. Colonel Amy Wright's voice joined the conversation from her fighter command ship. Admiral, this could work in our favor. If we can achieve tactical surprise, we might be able to hit them before they can organize a proper defense. The problem is still numbers, Captain Nina Rodriguez pointed out from her destroyer. Even surprised, they still have us outnumbered 4-1. Bennett considered their options. Surprise would help, but it wouldn't be enough against those odds. They needed something more. Linda, she called to the communications officer, are we still receiving transmissions from the Zalani underground shelters? Yes, ma'am, but they're very weak. The Vorthak are jamming most frequencies. Patch me through. The speakers hissed with static, then a faint voice came through. It was Elder Zara, the same Zalani who had sent the original distress call. This is Admiral Bennett of the Earth Fleet. Can you hear me? There was a long pause, then an excited response. Admiral Bennett, you came. We hoped, but the distance was so great. We're still 3 days out, Elder Zara. What's your situation? We have approximately 12,000 Zalani hiding in 6 underground complexes. The Vorthak have taken most of our people to their ships for experiments. But we still have technical teams working to support any rescue attempt. Bennett felt a surge of hope. What kind of technical support? We've been monitoring Vorthak ship systems since they arrived. We know their shield frequencies, their weapon charging cycles, even their internal security codes. We've been preparing data packages to transmit to any rescue force. Elder Zara, this is very important. Do you have any way to disable their ships from the inside? Another pause. Perhaps. We have infiltration teams that could access their computer networks. The Vorthak are not expecting sabotage from what they consider a defeated enemy. Bennett looked around her bridge. Her officers were listening intently to every word. Can your people coordinate with our attack? Yes, Admiral. We've been studying human military tactics from the transmissions we intercepted during your journey. Your species thinks very differently from the Vorthak. They expect enemies to fight with honor and strength. You fight with intelligence and deception. Then here's what we're going to do, Bennett said, her mind already forming a plan. Your people will need to disable as many Vorthak ships as possible from the inside. Can you target their engines and weapon systems? We believe so. Our technical teams have identified critical system nodes. Good. We'll coordinate our attack with your sabotage efforts, but Elder Zara, you need to understand, this is going to be extremely dangerous for your people. If the Vorthak discover what you're doing... Admiral, the alien voice came back firmly. They are already killing us. They are experimenting on our children. We would rather die fighting than live as their specimens. Bennett felt a chill of admiration for these peaceful people who had found courage in their darkest hour. Very well. Stand by for tactical coordination. Data. We'll be in communication range for direct planning in 60 hours. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in thoughtful silence. Admiral, Captain Hayes said finally, we might actually have a chance. Bennett nodded slowly. Yes, we might, but it's going to require perfect timing and a lot of luck. She turned to address her crew. All hands, this is Admiral Bennett. We have confirmation that Zalani survivors are prepared to assist our liberation effort. This mission has gone from impossible to merely suicidal. I consider that progress. Despite the grim situation, several bridge officers smiled. This was Admiral Bennett at her best, finding hope in hopeless situations and inspiring others to believe in the impossible. The human fleet continued its journey through hyperspace, racing toward a battle that would determine the fate of an entire species and possibly humanity's place in the galaxy. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system in perfect formation. 60 ships materialized from the twisted dimensions of faster-than-light travel, their hulls gleaming under the light of the distant star. For a moment, space was peaceful, showing no signs of the war that had consumed this system for the past 2 weeks. Long-range sensors active, reported Navigation Officer Kate Morgan from the USS Retribution's bridge. Detecting multiple Vorthak vessels throughout the system. Preliminary count shows 218 ships. Admiral Bennett studied the tactical display. The Vorthak fleet was spread across the system just as intelligence had predicted. Most of their heavy ships surrounded the Zalani homeworld, while smaller patrol groups monitored key positions. Any sign they've detected us? Bennett asked. Not yet, ma'am. We're still at the edge of their sensor range. Captain Ryan Hayes's voice came over the communication system from the USS Defiance. Admiral, we have a Vorthak patrol fleet moving toward our position. 4 ships. Looks like a standard reconnaissance group. Bennett felt her pulse quicken. This was it. Their first real test against Vorthak forces. Everything they had planned, all their theories about alien combat effectiveness, would be proven or disproven in the next few minutes. All ships, battle stations. Captain Hayes, your squadron will engage the patrol fleet. Consider this a field test of our new weapon systems. Understood, Admiral. Defiant Squadron moving to intercept. On the main display, Bennett watched as 4 human destroyers broke away from the main fleet. The Defiance led the formation, followed by Captain Ben Parker's ship and 2 others. They accelerated toward the approaching Vorthak vessels, their modified plasma weapons charging for first contact. Communications from the Vorthak patrol, reported Linda Ross. They're demanding identification and ordering us to surrender for processing. Tell them we're here to discuss surrender terms, Bennett replied with a grim smile. Buy Captain Hayes a few more minutes to get into position. The Vorthak patrol consisted of 4 medium-sized warships, each about twice the size of a human destroyer. Their hulls were dark and angular, covered in the armor plating that made them so difficult to damage. They moved in a rigid formation that spoke of military discipline but little tactical flexibility. Defiant Squadron in attack position, Hayes reported. Beginning engagement, now. The first human plasma torpedoes struck the lead Vorthak ship with devastating effect. Instead of the single massive explosion typical of conventional weapons, the modified torpedoes cycled through multiple energy frequencies. The Vorthak shields, designed to absorb specific types of energy, flickered and failed as the weapons found the exact frequencies needed to penetrate their defenses. Direct hit on Target 1, reported Chief Gunner Alex Turner from his position. Their shields are down. Significant hull damage, but the Vorthak were not helpless. Their return fire lit up space with brilliant energy beams that could have destroyed any human ship in a single hit. Fortunately, human ships were smaller and faster than anything the Vorthak were used to fighting. Evasive maneuvers, Captain Hayes ordered as his ship danced between the enemy weapons. All vessels, execute attack pattern Delta. The human ships scattered, using their superior speed to avoid the powerful but slow-tracking Vorthak weapons. It was like watching a pack of wolves attack a group of bears. The aliens were stronger, but the humans were faster and smarter. Captain Parker brought his destroyer around behind the second Vorthak ship, targeting the engine section. His plasma torpedoes found their mark, crippling the alien vessel's propulsion systems. Target 2 is dead in space, Parker reported. Moving to assist Defiance. The battle continued for 12 minutes. When it was over, all 4 Vorthak ships were either destroyed or disabled. The human squadron had taken damage but suffered no losses. Well done, Captain Hayes, Admiral Bennett said as the destroyers returned to formation. What did you learn? Several things, ma'am. First, our modified weapons are extremely effective against their shielding. Second, their ship designs prioritize firepower over maneuverability. Third, and most importantly, they don't adapt their tactics during combat. Explain that last point. They kept using the same attack formations even after it became clear we could outmaneuver them. It's like they were following a preset battle plan with no ability to improvise. This was crucial intelligence. Bennett had suspected that the Vorthak Empire's success came from overwhelming force rather than tactical brilliance, but now they had proof. All ships proceed into the system, maintain formation, and prepare for larger engagements. As the human fleet moved deeper into Vorthak-controlled space, they intercepted more alien communications. The enemy commanders were beginning to realize that something was wrong. Patrol Group 7 is not responding, one Vorthak voice reported. Last transmission indicated contact with unknown vessels. Unknown vessels? Another voice replied. Impossible. We control this entire system. Engineering teams report detecting unfamiliar energy signatures near the system perimeter. Recommend deploying additional patrol groups for investigation. Bennett smiled. The Vorthak were confused, which was exactly what she wanted. Confused enemies made mistakes. Admiral called. Dr. Gary Nelson from the medical bay. I'm receiving a transmission from the Zalani underground shelters. Elder Zara wants to speak with you. Put her through. The familiar voice of the Zalani leader filled the bridge, clearer now that they were in the same system. Admiral Bennett, we detected the destruction of the Vorthak patrol vessels. Your fleet fights with great skill. Thank you, Elder Zara. Are your people ready to begin the sabotage operations? We are. Our technical teams have infiltrated 7 Vorthak ships through maintenance access points. We're prepared to disable their engines and weapons on your signal. Outstanding. How many ships can you affect? Approximately 30 vessels, including 2 of their largest command ships. However, Admiral, once we begin, the Vorthak will know they face more than a simple fleet engagement. They will respond with extreme force. Bennett understood. The moment the sabotage began, any pretense of surprise would be lost. The Vorthak would throw everything they had at the human fleet. We're ready for that, Elder Zara. Begin your operations in exactly 1 hour. That will give us time to position our ships for maximum effect. Understood, Admiral. And Admiral, thank you for coming. We know the odds you face. We're not here to face odds, Elder Zara. We're here to change them. As the transmission ended, Bennett turned to address her bridge crew. The next few hours would determine everything. All hands, this is Admiral Bennett. In 1 hour we begin the liberation of the Zalani homeworld. We are outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting in enemy territory. The Vorthak Empire has never been defeated in open combat. She paused, looking at the determined faces around her, which means they have no idea what's about to hit them. This is humanity's first real battle among the stars. Let's make sure the galaxy remembers it. The human fleet continued its advance toward the heart of the system, where over 200 Vorthak ships waited in confident occupation of a conquered world. None of them suspected that their overwhelming advantage was about to become a liability. In the depths of space, 60 human ships prepared to attempt the impossible. Behind them, Earth waited for news of their success or failure. Ahead of them, an entire alien civilization depended on their courage and skill. The first battle was won. The real war was about to begin. Admiral Bennett watched the tactical display as her fleet spread across the Kepler 442 system in what appeared to be a suicidal formation. 60 human ships faced over 200 Vorthak vessels, and instead of concentrating their forces for maximum impact, Bennett had ordered them to split into 6 separate groups. Admiral, Captain Nina Rodriguez's voice crackled over the communication system. My destroyers are in position near the asteroid belt. We have 17 Vorthak ships on intercept course. Acknowledged, Captain. Remember, your job is to look threatening, not to win. Make them think you're the main attack force. Yes, ma'am. My crews are ready to put on a good show. Bennett's strategy was based on everything they had learned about Vorthak psychology. The aliens were used to fighting enemies who matched strength with strength, who gathered their fleets together for massive confrontations. They would expect the humans to do the same thing. Instead, Bennett was giving them 6 different targets, each one seemingly trying to achieve a different objective. The Vorthak would be forced to divide their forces to respond to multiple threats, breaking up their overwhelming numerical advantage. "Status report from all groups," Bennett ordered. "Group Alpha in position near the outer planets," reported Captain Hayes from the Defiance. "We're showing heavy scanner activity, making it look like we're planning an attack on their supply bases." "Group Beta ready at the system perimeter," called Captain Parker. "We're broadcasting false communications about reinforcements arriving. One by one, the human squadron leaders reported their positions. Each group was deliberately making itself visible to Vorthak sensors while projecting false intentions about their actual mission. "Group 6 in position above the system ecliptic," reported Colonel Amy Wright from her fighter command ship. "We're running attack patterns that suggest we're planning orbital bombardment." Bennett nodded with satisfaction. The Vorthak commanders would be seeing threats everywhere, forced to respond to multiple apparent attacks instead of focusing on any single target. "Communications intercept from Vorthak Command," reported Linda Ross. "They're arguing about how to respond. Some want to keep the fleet concentrated, others want to send forces to defend different targets." "Perfect. Let them argue. Elder Zara, are your people ready?" The Zalani leader's voice came through clearly, now that they were in direct communication range. "Yes, Admiral. Our teams are in position aboard 31 Vorthak ships. We await your signal." "Begin sabotage operations now." Throughout the Vorthak fleet, Zalani technical teams who had been hiding in maintenance areas and service tunnels began their dangerous work. They had spent days studying alien technology, learning the locations of critical system nodes. Now they put that knowledge to use. On the bridge of the USS Retribution, Bennett watched as red dots on the tactical display began flickering. One by one, Vorthak ships started reporting system failures. "Multiple Vorthak vessels showing engine problems," reported Kate Morgan. "Looks like 7 ships have lost propulsion. 3 more are reporting weapons malfunctions. The Vorthak communications channels erupted in confusion. Command ship destroyer, we have catastrophic engine failure. Cause unknown. Heavy cruiser battalion, our primary weapons are offline. Engineering teams cannot locate the problem. This is Fleet Commander Thak. All ships, implement emergency security protocols. We may have saboteurs aboard." Bennett smiled grimly. The Vorthak were finally beginning to understand that they faced something more than a conventional battle. All human. "Ships, begin Phase 2. Groups Alpha and Beta, start your attack runs. Make them loud and visible." Captain Hayes led the first assault, his destroyers charging directly at a group of Vorthak ships defending the outer system supply bases. Plasma torpedoes lit up space as the humans engaged ships twice their size. The Vorthak response was immediate and powerful. Energy beams capable of destroying small asteroids lanced out toward the human ships, but the Defiance and her sister ships danced between the attacks, using their speed and maneuverability to avoid destruction. "Direct hit on Vorthak. Heavy Cruiser 7, reported Chief Gunner Alex Turner. "Their shields are down, significant structural damage." Meanwhile, Captain Parker's group was engaging Vorthak forces near the system perimeter, creating the illusion of a major battle developing in that sector. "Admiral," called Dr. Gary Nelson from his monitoring station, "I'm tracking Vorthak force deployments. They're sending ships to respond to both Alpha and Beta groups, just as you predicted." Bennett watched the tactical display as Vorthak ships broke away from their defensive positions around the Zalani homeworld. The alien fleet was fragmenting, exactly as she had hoped. "Group 6, begin your run," she ordered. Colonel Wright's fighter. Squadrons dove toward the Zalani homeworld from above the system plane, their attack appearing to target the planet's surface. More Vorthak ships moved to intercept them. "Vorthak Command is ordering 40 ships to defend the homeworld," reported Linda Ross. "They think we're planning a direct assault on the planet." "Let them think that. All groups, continue engagement. Make every shot count, but don't get trapped in prolonged combat." The human ships fought with a style the Vorthak had never encountered. Instead of standing and trading fire like conventional warships, they struck fast and hard, then disappeared. Before the aliens could respond effectively, it was like fighting shadows. Captain Ben Parker found himself facing 3 Vorthak cruisers simultaneously. Instead of retreating, he ordered his ships to split up, forcing the aliens to divide their fire. "Parker Squadron, execute Pattern 7, he commanded. His ships scattered, then converged on the lead Vorthak vessel from 3 different angles. The alien ship, designed to fight enemies that approached directly, couldn't target all 3 attackers at once. "Target destroyed," Parker reported as the Vorthak cruiser exploded under concentrated human fire. "Moving to next objective!" Throughout the system, similar scenes played out as human crews put their training and ingenuity against alien firepower and armor. The Vorthak were discovering that all their advantages meant nothing if they couldn't hit their targets. "Admiral," Elder Zara's voice came through the communication system, "our sabotage teams report success on 17 ships. However, the Vorthak are beginning to find our people. 3 teams have been captured." Bennett felt a chill. She knew what happened to Zalani who fell into Vorthak hands. "Tell your people they're heroes, Elder Zara. Their sacrifice is saving countless lives." "They know, Admiral." They also report that Vorthak Fleet Commander Thak is becoming increasingly frustrated. He's ordering all ships to converge on your main fleet position. Bennett looked at the tactical display. Over 150 Vorthak ships were beginning to move toward the center of the system, where the USS Retribution waited with only 8 other vessels. "That's what we've been waiting for," she said. "All groups, Phase 3 begins now. Converge on the Zalani homeworld. We're going to hit them where they're not expecting it." The human fleet began a complex maneuver that would have been impossible for any other military force. Instead of retreating from the massive Vorthak response, they were diving deeper into enemy territory. "Admiral," Captain Rodriguez called from her position near the asteroid belt. "Are you sure about this? We're going to be completely surrounded." "Captain, being surrounded is only a problem if you're trying to retreat. We're not retreating." As the human ships raced toward their final objective, Bennett opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All hands. This is Admiral Bennett. In 15 minutes, we will engage the main Vorthak fleet in orbit around the Zalani homeworld. We are outnumbered, 3-1 by ships twice our size. The enemy has never been defeated in open combat." She paused, watching her ships converge on their target. "But they've never fought humans before. They don't know that we don't surrender. They don't know that we protect our friends. They don't know that when we say impossible, we mean challenging." The Zalani homeworld grew larger on the view screen, surrounded by a swarm of alien warships. Deep below its surface, the survivors of a peaceful civilization waited to learn if their desperate gamble had paid off. Above them, 60 human ships prepared to attempt the impossible one more time. The massive shape of Fleet Commander Thak's personal command vessel dropped out of hyperspace like a dark moon entering the Zalani system. The ship was enormous, nearly 3 kilometers long and bristling with enough weapons to destroy entire fleets. Behind it came 50 additional Vorthak warships, the Empire's strategic reserve, called in to crush what should have been a minor human nuisance. Admiral Bennett watched the new arrivals on her tactical display and felt her heart sink. Her fleet had been winning against the original Vorthak force, but now they faced nearly 400 enemy ships total. The odds had gone from difficult to mathematically impossible. "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Linda Ross, "we're receiving a transmission from the Vorthak command ship. Fleet Commander Thak wants to speak with you directly." "Put him through." The main view screen flickered, then showed the interior of an alien bridge. Fleet Commander Thak was massive even by Vorthak standards, his natural armor plating scarred from countless battles. His eyes glowed with the cold intelligence of a predator. "Human Admiral," Thak spoke in heavily accented English. "I am Fleet, Commander Thak, Supreme War Leader of the 4th Vorthak Battle Fleet. Your species has impressed me with its fighting spirit, but this battle is over. Surrender now, and I will ensure your crews receive quick deaths." Bennett stood up from her command chair, meeting the alien's gaze directly. "Fleet Commander, I'm Admiral Lisa Bennett of the United Earth Fleet. I have a counter-proposal. Withdraw. Your forces from this system release all Zalani prisoners and we'll let you leave with your lives." Thak's harsh laughter filled the bridge. "Amusing. You command perhaps 40 ships against my 400. Your bravery is noteworthy, but bravery cannot overcome reality." "You're right about one thing," Bennett replied. "Reality is important. The reality is that you've spent 2 weeks trying to defeat a peaceful species, and you needed reinforcements to handle 60 human ships. That doesn't speak well for Vorthak military effectiveness." The alien commander's expression darkened. "Your insults will be remembered when your species is enslaved. You have 1 minute to surrender." The transmission ended, leaving Bennett's bridge in tense silence. "Orders, Admiral?" asked Captain Ryan Hayes over the communication system. Bennett looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These were good people who had volunteered for what they knew might be a suicide mission. They deserved honesty about their situation. "All ships, this is Admiral Bennett. Fleet Commander Thak has just informed us that surrender will result in quick deaths for our crews. Since we came here to save lives, not lose them, I'm afraid we'll have to decline his generous offer." She paused, studying the tactical display showing the overwhelming enemy force. "We are now facing approximately 400 Vorthak ships, including their command vessel. Any rational military commander would order a retreat. Fortunately for the Zalani, I've never been accused of being particularly rational." Despite the impossible odds, several bridge officers smiled. This was Admiral Bennett at her finest, finding humor in hopeless situations. "All ships, prepare for assault on the Vorthak command vessel. We're going to capture Fleet Commander Thak." The communication channels erupted in surprised responses from her ship commanders. "Admiral," Captain Nina Rodriguez called from her destroyer, "did you say capture? That ship is the size of a small moon." "Correct, Captain, which is why we're going to board it." "Ma'am," interrupted Chief Engineer Matt Sullivan, "boarding a ship that size would require getting inside their shields and docking with their hull," Bennett finished. "Captain Rob Ellis, your ship took heavy damage earlier. How's your stealth capability?" Ellis's face appeared on the communication screen from his battered destroyer. "Stealth systems are operational, but barely. We could probably get close to one ship before they detected us." "Perfect. I need you to transport a boarding party onto Thak's command vessel. Admiral, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Valdez's voice joined the conversation from the Marine command ship. You're talking about assaulting a ship with thousands of enemy troops aboard. Even if we could get inside, we'd be completely outnumbered. Colonel, how many Marines do you need to capture one alien commander? Valdez was quiet for a moment. Then his voice came back with a hint of excitement. If we could reach the command bridge, maybe 30 Marines, ma'am, but they'd have to be the best we have. Then pick your best 30. Captain Ellis, prepare for a stealth approach. All other ships begin diversionary attacks to draw attention away from Ellis's approach. The human fleet spread out, launching what appeared to be desperate attacks against the massive Vorthak formation. Plasma torpedoes and energy beams lit up space as 60 ships engaged 400 in seemingly hopeless combat. While the battle raged, Captain Ellis guided his damaged destroyer through the debris field created by earlier fighting. The ship's stealth systems, designed for reconnaissance missions, made it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. Ellis to boarding party, the captain transmitted to the Marines preparing in his ship's bay. We're approaching the command vessel's docking port. You'll have maybe 10 minutes before they detect the breach. Colonel Valdez led the boarding party personally, 30 of humanity's finest Marines equipped with the latest weapons and armor. Among them was Sergeant Paul Stevens, a demolitions expert, and Corporal Kate Miller, a communications specialist who could hopefully tap into Vorthak computer systems. Remember, Valdez addressed his team as they prepared to board, we're not here to fight their entire army. We're here to grab one very important alien and get out. Speed and surprise are our only advantages. The destroyer shuddered as it made contact with the Vorthak command ship's hull. Cutting tools melted through alien armor plating, creating an entry point into the massive vessel. Breach successful, reported Sergeant Stevens. We're inside their ship. The Marines moved through corridors designed for beings much larger than humans. Everything about the ship spoke of the Vorthak Empire's philosophy. Massive, heavily armored, built for intimidation rather than efficiency. Vorthak patrol approaching from ahead, whispered Corporal Miller. 6 soldiers fully armed. Take them quietly, Valdez ordered. The human Marines struck with silent efficiency. Their weapons, designed to exploit Vorthak anatomical weaknesses, dropped the alien soldiers before they could raise an alarm. Miller, can you access their computer systems? Working on it, sir. The communications specialist connected her equipment to a Vorthak data terminal. I'm in. Downloading ship schematics and locating the command bridge. The Marines moved deeper into the enemy ship, following routes that Miller identified through the alien computer network. Behind them, space battle continued to rage as the rest of the human fleet kept the Vorthak forces distracted. Bridge is 3 levels up, Miller reported. But, sir, there are at least 50 guards between us and the target. Valdez smiled grimly. Then we'll just have to be creative. The Marines split into 3 teams, using the ship's own structure against its defenders. Sergeant Stevens planted explosive charges in key locations, creating diversions that drew guards away from the command bridge. Explosions on decks 7 and 9, came reports over Vorthak communication channels. Security teams respond immediately. As alien guards rushed to investigate the apparent sabotage, Valdez's team made their way to the bridge level. They found Fleet Commander Thak in his command center, directing the battle against the human fleet. Humans! Thak snarled as the Marines burst onto the bridge. Impossible! How did you penetrate our defenses? Very carefully, Valdez replied, raising his weapon. Fleet Commander Thak, you're coming with us. The alien commander was huge, nearly 3 meters tall and covered in natural armor. But human weapons had been specifically designed to deal with Vorthak biology. "You cannot capture me," Thak declared. "I am Supreme War Leader of the 4th Battle Fleet. I do not surrender." "Then you'll come as a prisoner," Valdez said. "Your choice." The brief fight that followed demonstrated everything the humans had learned about fighting Vorthak opponents. The alien was stronger and better armored, but the Marines were faster, smarter, and better coordinated. When it was over, Fleet Commander Thak was unconscious and secured for transport. "Bennett to boarding party," came the Admiral's voice over their communication system. "Status report. Package secured," Valdez reported. "Ready for extraction." "Outstanding, Colonel. Captain Ellis, get our people out of there." As the Marines made their way back through the enemy ship, the space battle took on a new dimension. Word spread quickly through the Vorthak fleet that their supreme commander had been captured by a handful of human soldiers. "This is impossible," one alien captain transmitted. "How can 30 humans defeat the security of our command vessel?" The answer came from Admiral Bennett, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Because we don't fight fair and we don't give up. Fleet Commander Thak is now our prisoner. Any Vorthak ship that wants him back can surrender to receive further instructions." 4. The first time in their history, the Vorthak Empire faced a choice between abandoning their leader or surrendering to an enemy they had vastly outnumbered. The response was immediate. One by one, Vorthak ships began withdrawing toward the edge of the system. They left behind their disabled vessels, their prisoners, and their commander. As the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, the Zilani homeworld was free for the first time in 2 weeks. On the planet's surface, survivors emerged from underground shelters to see human ships in orbit, their rescuers silhouetted against the stars. "Admiral," Elder Zara's voice carried a mix of gratitude and wonder. "How can we ever repay what you've done?" "Just remember," Bennett replied, "that when someone calls for help, it's worth answering. No matter how far away they are, no matter how impossible the odds." 3 weeks later, news of the Battle of Kepler 442 had spread throughout the galaxy. The human victory had inspired uprisings on dozens of Vorthak-controlled worlds. The empire that had seemed invincible was fragmenting as subject species learned that their oppressors could be defeated. Admiral Bennett stood in her ready room, aboard the Retribution, reviewing reports from across the sector. Her fleet had grown from 60 ships to Ove. The Vorthak fleet hung motionless in space around the Zilani homeworld, 400 warships frozen in confusion and indecision. Their supreme commander was prisoner aboard a human ship. Their invasion force was scattered and demoralized, and, for the first time in their empire's history, they faced an enemy they could not understand. Admiral Bennett stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, watching the alien fleet through the viewscreen. Fleet Commander Thak sat in a specially reinforced chair, his massive frame secured but his eyes still burning with hatred and confusion. "Your species fights without honor," Thak growled in his heavily accented English. "You use deception and tricks instead of strength and courage." "We use intelligence," Bennett replied calmly. "Something your empire might want to consider." "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Linda Ross, "we're receiving transmissions from multiple Vorthak ships. They're demanding to speak with their commander. Put them through." The main screen split into multiple windows, showing various Vorthak ship commanders. All of them looked confused and angry, unsure how to proceed without their supreme leader. "Humans," one of them spoke. Release Fleet Commander Thak immediately or we will destroy your entire fleet. Bennett looked at Thak, then back at the screen. I have a better idea. You will withdraw all forces from this system, release every Zalani prisoner, and provide medical aid to survivors of your bombardment. In return, we'll consider not executing your commander for war crimes. The alien officers erupted in outrage. Impossible! We do not negotiate with inferior species. The Vorthak Empire does not retreat. You are outnumbered 10-1. Bennett waited for the shouting to die down, then spoke quietly. You're right about the numbers. You have more ships than we do, but in the past 6 hours, we've destroyed or disabled over 100 of your vessels while losing only 8 of ours. At this rate, our fleets will be equal in about 12 hours. She gestured to the tactical display showing the battle damage assessment. More importantly, every minute you delay, more stories about this battle spread across the galaxy. By tomorrow, every species in this sector will know that the mighty Vorthak Empire was defeated by 60 human ships. Thak shifted uncomfortably in his restraints. You cannot defeat the Empire. We control 200 star systems. Controlled, Bennett corrected. Past tense. Because every species you've conquered is watching this battle right now. They're seeing their oppressors lose, to a species they've never heard of. How long do you think your empire will last once word spreads that the Vorthak can be beaten? The truth of her words was already becoming apparent. Communication intercepts showed that news of the battle was spreading through subspace channels, faster than anyone had expected. Species throughout the galaxy were learning that the seemingly invincible Vorthak Empire had been challenged and defeated. Admiral, called Dr. Gary Nelson from his monitoring station, I'm receiving priority transmissions from 17 different star systems. They're all asking for contact with Earth's government. What kind of contact? Trade agreements, mutual. Defense pacts, requests for military assistance against Vorthak occupation forces. Admiral, half the galaxy wants to ally with us. Bennett absorbed this information. When the human fleet had departed Earth, they were a minor species with a handful of star systems and limited influence. Now they were apparently being seen as a major galactic power. Elder Zara, Bennett called to the Zalani leader. What's the status of your people? The familiar voice came through clearly now that Vorthak jamming had been eliminated. Admiral Bennett, our rescue teams have reached all the prison compounds. Thanks to your fighter attacks, the execution squads were stopped. We estimate that 12,000 Zalani civilians have been saved. What about the ones taken aboard Vorthak ships? That's more complicated. Many are aboard ships that are now disabled. But we'll need to board those vessels to rescue them. Bennett turned to the Vorthak commanders still displayed on her screen. You heard her. We need access to your ships to rescue Zalani prisoners. You can cooperate, or we can board them by force. We will not surrender our ships to humans, one alien commander declared. Then you'll lose them, Bennett replied simply. Colonel Valdez, prepare boarding parties for all disabled Vorthak vessels. Ma'am, the Marine commander responded immediately. Boarding parties standing by. The efficiency of the human response clearly shocked the Vorthak officers. They were used to enemies who fought with rigid honor codes and predictable tactics. The humans seemed to have an infinite capacity for adaptation and improvisation. Wait, one of the alien commanders called out. Perhaps we can discuss terms. Fleet Commander Thak's expression darkened. Commander Corps, you will not negotiate with these humans. With respect, Supreme Leader, you are not in a position to give orders. The breakdown of Vorthak command structure was happening in real time. Bennett watched as the alien officers began arguing among themselves, some wanting to continue fighting while others sought to minimize their losses. "Admiral," Captain Ryan Hayes called from the Defiance, "we're detecting movement from the Vorthak fleet. Looks like about 60 ships are breaking away from the main formation." Bennett studied the tactical display. The ships leaving the formation were among the newest and most powerful in the Vorthak fleet. "Where are they going?" "Unknown. Ma'am, they're not heading toward our position or toward the system perimeter." The answer came from Thak himself. "The Second Fleet commanders," he said with obvious bitterness. "They abandoned me to save themselves. Without a supreme leader to unite them, the battle fleet will fragment." "Is that what usually happens when you lose a commander?" Bennett asked. "We do not usually lose commanders. The Vorthak Empire has never been defeated in open battle. Until today." The implications were staggering. The human victory wasn't just saving the Zilani, it was potentially fracturing one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. "Admiral," reported Chief Engineer Matt Sullivan, "we're receiving a transmission from Captain Rob Ellis. He says he has something we need to see." "Put him through." Ellis appeared on screen from his damaged destroyer. Behind him, Bennett could see Zilani civilians being helped by human medical teams. "Admiral, we've rescued approximately 800 Zilani prisoners from the disabled Vorthak ships. But we found something else. The aliens were conducting experiments on them, trying to extract their regenerative abilities." Bennett felt a chill. Were they successful? Partially. The good news is that we stopped the program before they could implement it on a large scale. The bad news is that they were sharing data with other Vorthak research facilities throughout the Empire. This changed everything. The battle for the Zilani homeworld wasn't just about saving one species. It was about preventing the Vorthak from becoming even more dangerous. "Elder Zara," Bennett called, "does your government have any weapons research programs?" "We are a peaceful people, Admiral. We have no military technology, but we do have something else. Detailed records of every Vorthak research facility in this sector. We've been monitoring their activities for years." Bennett smiled grimly. "Would you be willing to share that information with Earth?" "Admiral Bennett, after what you've done for us, we'll share anything you need." The final phase of the battle began not with weapons, but with information. Zilani data streams flowed to human ships, providing detailed intelligence about Vorthak, military installations, research facilities, and troop movements. "Admiral," reported Navigation Officer Kate Morgan, "based on this new intelligence, we could launch follow-up operations against 12 different Vorthak research facilities. If we move quickly, we could prevent them from completing their biological weapons programs." Bennett looked at the tactical display showing potential targets throughout the sector. "Each operation would be dangerous, but the alternative was allowing the Vorthak to develop enhanced soldiers using Zilani technology. Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Prepare for extended operations. We're not going home yet." "Ma'am." "Captain," Hayes called from the Defiance. "What about the Vorthak ships still in this system?" Bennett turned to face the alien commanders on her screen. "Gentlemen, you have a choice. Withdraw from this system immediately and never return or become prisoners of war. You have 5 minutes to decide." The battle around the Zilani homeworld erupted with a fury that lit up the darkness of space. 60 human ships dove into the heart of the Vorthak fleet, their weapons blazing as they engaged over 150 alien vessels in close combat. Admiral Bennett gripped the arms of her command chair as the USS Retribution shuddered under enemy fire. Around her, The bridge crew worked with deadly efficiency, coordinating attacks and defensive maneuvers while explosions bloomed like deadly flowers throughout the fleet engagement. "Direct hit on our starboard shields," reported Chief Engineer Matt Sullivan. "Shield generators holding, but we're down to 60% power. Return fire, all weapons," Bennett ordered. "Target that command ship at bearing 270. The Retribution's plasma cannons spoke, sending modified torpedoes, racing toward a massive Vorthak vessel. The alien ship's shields flared and collapsed as the frequency-cycling weapons found their mark. Secondary explosions rippled along the enemy hull. "Enemy command ship severely damaged," reported Chief Gunner Alex Turner. "They're falling back, but for every Vorthak ship they damaged, 2 more seemed to take its place. The aliens were finally bringing their full numerical advantage to bear, and the human fleet was taking a beating." "Admiral," Captain Ryan Hayes's voice crackled over the communication system from the Defiance, "we've lost the destroyer Portland. The Martinez took critical damage and is withdrawing." Bennett watched the tactical display as 2 green dots disappeared from her fleet formation. Good ships, good crews, lost in a battle that might still end in defeat despite their sacrifices. All ships, maintain formation. Don't let them separate us. The Vorthak were trying to use their superior numbers to surround and destroy the human ships one by one. Bennett kept her fleet moving in a tight formation, using concentrated firepower to punch through enemy lines before they could close the trap. "Ma'am," called Navigation Officer Kate Morgan, "we're receiving a transmission from Captain Rob Ellis on the Stuart. His ship lost main power during the last attack. Put him through." Captain Ellis's face appeared on the communication screen, his bridge dark except for emergency lighting. Behind him, Bennett could see crew members working frantically to restore power. "Admiral, we're dead in space. Engines are offline, main weapons are down. But we still have manual torpedo controls." Bennett understood immediately. "Captain, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" "My crew can manually load and fire torpedoes using backup systems. We might be able to take out one of their big ships before they finish us off. It was essentially a suicide mission. Without power for maneuvering, the Stuart would be a sitting target for Vorthak weapons. But if they could damage or destroy one of the alien command vessels, it might tip the balance of the battle. Do it, Captain. Make it count." "Yes, ma'am. It's been an honor serving with you." Bennett watched as the powerless destroyer drifted toward a massive Vorthak battleship. The alien vessel, confident that the human ship was defeated, moved in for the kill. At the last moment, the Stuart's torpedo tubes flashed with manual fire. 6 plasma torpedoes struck the Vorthak battleship at point-blank range. The enemy shields collapsed instantly, and the weapons tore into the alien hull. The battleship's reactor went critical, and the massive vessel disappeared in a brilliant explosion that temporarily lit up half the system. The Stuart was caught in the blast and destroyed, but her sacrifice had eliminated one of the most powerful ships in the Vorthak fleet. "All ships, that's how it's done," Bennett announced to her fleet. "Captain Ellis and his crew just showed us how humans fight when the odds are impossible." The battle continued to rage around the Zalani homeworld. Captain Nina Rodriguez brought her destroyer squadron in behind a group of Vorthak cruisers, targeting their engine sections with precision strikes. "Rodriguez squadron engaging enemy formation at grid 77, she reported. "We're using their own ships as cover." The human vessels were fighting smart, using Vorthak ships to block enemy fire while striking at vulnerable points. It was a level of tactical innovation that the aliens had never encountered. Commander Carl Brooks found himself commanding a destroyer with failing life support systems after a Vorthak energy beam had torn through his ship's hull. Instead of retreating, he ordered his crew to continue fighting. "Brooks to all hands," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We've got hull breaches on 3 decks and life support is failing. Engineering teams, I need emergency power to weapons. Everyone else, put on emergency suits and keep fighting." His crew responded without hesitation. Human engineers worked in vacuum to restore power while gunners manually aimed weapons through shattered viewports. The destroyer continued to fire on enemy ships even as atmosphere leaked from its damaged hull. "This is impossible," one Vorthak commander transmitted to his fleet. "These humans fight like they're already dead. How do you defeat an enemy that doesn't fear destruction?" Fleet Commander Thak's response crackled with frustration. "Increase firepower. Concentrate all weapons on their flagship. If we destroy their command ship, the rest will surrender." But Admiral Bennett had no intention of making herself an easy target. The Retribution danced between enemy ships, using the massive Vorthak vessels as cover while coordinating the human fleet's attacks. "Elder Zara," Bennett called to the Zalani leader, "what's the status of your sabotage teams?" "We have successfully disabled 37 enemy ships," came the reply. "But Admiral, we're detecting massive troop movements on the planet's surface. The Vorthak are preparing to execute all remaining prisoners." Bennett felt ice in her veins. The aliens were planning to commit genocide rather than risk losing their captives to a human rescue operation. "How long do we have?" "Perhaps 20 minutes before they reach the prison compounds." Bennett looked at the tactical display. The space battle was still raging with no clear victor, but now they had a deadline. In 20 minutes, thousands of Zalani civilians would be murdered. "All ships, this is Admiral Bennett. We have new priorities. Colonel Wright, I need your fighter squadrons to begin atmospheric operations immediately. Ma'am, we're still engaged with enemy fighters up here. Leave them. The Zalani prisoners are about to be executed. Get your pilots down to the planet. Now." "Understood, Admiral. All fighter squadrons, follow me down." Colonel Amy Wright led her fighters away from the space battle and dove toward the Zalani homeworld's atmosphere. Behind them, Vorthak fighters tried to follow, but the human pilots were faster and more maneuverable in atmospheric flight. "Wright's squadron to ground forces," the colonel transmitted as her fighters screamed through the alien sky. "We need target locations for Vorthak execution squads." "Transmitting coordinates now," Elder Zara replied. "The prison compounds are located in 6 different cities. The Vorthak have ground vehicles moving toward each location." The human fighters split up, racing toward the target areas. What they found below shocked them. Massive alien vehicles filled with heavily armed Vorthak soldiers, all moving toward facilities where thousands of Zalani civilians were being held. "This is Major Steve Collins," one of the squadron leaders reported. "I have visual on Vorthak execution squads approaching Prison Compound Alpha. Beginning attack run." The human fighters dove from the sky like avenging angels, their weapons tearing into the surprised Vorthak ground forces. The aliens had never faced an enemy capable of attacking from space and atmosphere simultaneously. Back in space, the tide of battle was beginning to turn. Dr. Helen Martinez, working with Zalani, scientists who had emerged from hiding, transmitted critical information about Vorthak ship weaknesses to the human fleet. "Admiral," Dr. Martinez reported, "the Zalani have found a way to disrupt Vorthak shield generators remotely. They can create windows of vulnerability if we can coordinate our attacks." "Do it," Bennett ordered. Across the battlefield, Vorthak. Ships suddenly found their shields failing at critical moments, just as human weapons struck their hulls. The aliens began to realize they were facing not just one enemy, but an alliance of species working together. Impossible, Fleet Commander Thack transmitted to his remaining ships. How are these primitive humans coordinating with the defeated? Zalani? The answer came from Admiral Bennett herself, broadcasting on all frequencies so both friend and enemy could hear. Commander Thack, you made a critical error. You assumed the Zalani were defeated because you conquered their planet. But you can't defeat an idea, and the idea that peaceful people deserve protection is stronger than all your weapons. The space battle raged on, but now the Vorthak fleet was fighting defensively, trying to protect their damaged ships while human forces pressed their advantage with ruthless efficiency.